Welcome to the Agent of Wealth podcast with Marc Bautis from Bautis Financial. In this podcast, Marc helps guide you towards financial freedom, ensure you never run out of money, and create a balance in life that prioritizes what is most important to you. Join us for this journey as Marc draws from years of expertise and guest experts to solve the multiple wealth building challenges involved in your financial life.
Welcome back to the Agent of Wealth. This is your host, Marc Bautis. On today's show, I brought on a special guest, Chris Felton. Chris is a financial services entrepreneur, speaker, trainer, and the best-selling author of Couples Money, a book he wrote with his wife. Chris, welcome to the show.
Marc, good to be with you. Thanks for having me, man. Excited to get into this with you.
Yeah, same here. I'm excited to talk about today's topic. Mindset. I think when it comes to money, finances, it's so important. And then especially when it comes to couples. So I'm looking to look at that angle of things. And I know you got a lot of expertise with that. So really looking forward to it. What spurred you to write Couples Money?
Well, it was kind of out of the depths of hell in our relationship. So I won't get into the full story, but so I grew up in Loveland, and my parents argued over money and divorced over money, right? And 60% of divorces are tied back to money, and I never learned how money worked, even though I was a CPA, worked in that field for 7 years, and then started my own financial services company in 2000, basically, and left, kind of went full-time at that, left corporate America behind, and then went through a expensive, painful divorce, and married my second and last wife, Marlow. Basically, she didn't know that how expensive the divorce was. She didn't know that I had $250,000 of unsecured debt. She didn't know that I signed a stupid lease for my office that was, and she didn't know I was paying my ex $5,000 a month. She didn't know a lot of things. And basically, getting introspective and trying to figure out what I wanted out of my life, I got the intuition to hand the books over to Marlow, my second and last wife. She had to know about everything at that point. And so she didn't know who she married, because she was like, I thought you're a CPA, you're a financial advisor. Why are you broke? And do you know how bad this is? And we sat down and I called it the Come to Marlow meeting, where we sat down, and I mean, she's literally, Marc, going through, I call it the 4-letter word at that time. It's called a budget, even though I know it's 6 letters, right? It was a 4-letter word to me. And she's trying to get me to change some behaviors, and I didn't want to look at it. And that's one of my favorite quotes is, optimism and delusion sleep in the same bed together. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to look at the results. Us guys can have a tendency of like, don't look in front, don't look here, look over here. Like, I was really good at, yeah, I get it, but it's all changing because this is coming and this is coming and my big client's coming and things are changing. I didn't want to really have a relationship to results. So fast forward from that meeting, about 6 months later, we're living in a rented house and we're out of money. I mean, we're literally out of money. And I have to pay my ex-wife $5,200 court order first of the month. And I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in financial services. We're in the Great Recession. I was out of credit cards I could go to. There was no more lines of credit. And I had to come home and ask Marlow, because she had savings, she had her money situation straight. I had to ask her for her savings to give to me to pay my ex-wife. Marc, I don't know if you've ever talked to anyone that had to go to their wife and ask for the money to pay their ex-wife. So it didn't go well. And so my wife is about 5 foot nothing, and everyone in my office is afraid of her. Volcanic Marlow erupted, and she threw her purse. So when we do our keynote, we call it the purse throwing story, and we acted out on stage. It's pretty entertaining. It wasn't entertaining at that point, and she just kept, what's wrong with you, cussing me out. And then finally I'm like, well, if it's so bad, why are we still together? Why are we still married? And there was silence after that. And she left. She went upstairs, and I sat there, and I was like, it's clear as day, Marc. It was, I created all this. And it was no longer the economy. It was no longer the recession. It was no longer my ex-wife. It was as clear as day that I had created everything. And it was the first time in my life I realized that wherever I've had a financial problem in my life, I've always been there. And I just sat there and I was like, oh my Lord. And then I started thinking, oh man, wait, mom's broke, dad's broke, grandma's broke, grandpa's broke, great grandma, great grandpa, both sides of my mom. I'm like, everyone's broke. And I'm a CPM, a financial advisor, and I was broke. I'm like, wow, there's got to be something here. And so I just said, I'm going to figure it out. And it's all around mentality, it's all around mindset. So the next day we came together, and Marlow was like, okay, I'm part of the problem. We're not declaring bankruptcy. We're not getting divorced. I'm going to reach out to financially independent couples that I know that have not only good wealth financially, but in all areas of their life, health, spirituality, kids, you name it. And I'm going to figure out what they do. I'm going to figure out what they think. And I said, well, you know what? I'm all in because I'm going to change my belief systems. And I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I'm going all in on that. Like an Olympic athlete, if you've ever met an Olympic athlete, they're not partially in, they're all in on what they do. I said, I'm going all in. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to read everything I can around money mindsets. I'm going to journal. I'm going to change, and got committed. So basically, the couple's money book is she flew around and found these people, and she'd come back, and this is how they think. This is what they do. I'm like, well, this is how I was self-sabotaging. This is this. This is this. And long and short of it, it wasn't easy, but we shifted. I mainly shifted, and we had a massive financial transformation, and went from broke to, financially free. And we did in a pretty relatively short period of time. And it's been amazing. I mean, we haven't arrived, or we don't have it all figured out, but we've applied some things, and my goal is to, help millions of people, give them some hope to do the same. And so anyway, so the book was created from that.
Looking back at it, would you have done things the same in terms of that? You told me about that moment where you just laid out the books to her. Would you have done it sooner? Would you have gradually eased into it when you did it? Or is there anything you would have done differently about it?
As far as the shift and the changes,
Yeah.
I believe things happen obviously for a reason. What I would have done differently, I would have not delayed owning the results. And that was a big lesson we got from our book, is that the middle class thinkers, the masses, they don't want to look at their situation. And the reason they don't want to look at their situation is they don't want to feel bad. But if you don't want to look at it, then it never gets any better. And the pandemic taught us. I mean, oh my Lord, the average small business owner had 2 weeks worth of savings. People waiting for a $1,200 stimulus check. I mean, just delusional thinking.
Yeah.
And not that I have it all figured out, but I think one of the keys for us to create success in our life is we got to try not be as delusional as we are. And there's a whole nother part of this. Just, I got the right coaching too. I mean, I couldn't have figured it out on my own, because people are trying to figure it out. I'm like, well, if you knew, you would be living it. And so I had to get somebody that was free financially, that had the right mentality. So I would have engaged someone a little quicker. I would have owned my stuff a little quicker versus feeling guilty and shame and bad, and all those. They're real human feelings, but they're worthless feelings, and all they do is keep you stuck. So I would have started the process quicker of just going, you know what? I created a mess. I own it. I did it. And I'm ready to start putting, one foot in front of the other. Yeah, I wish that would have happened a few years earlier. Yes.
And do you think you would have been able to do it, to still do it? I know you mentioned Marlow said, basically, we're not declaring bankruptcy. We're going to get through this. Do you think you would have been able to do that without that kind of support structure on the other side of it?
No. That's a pretty big mountain, dude. I mean, that's $250,000 of credit card debt, and you're leaking a few thousand a month, and you're in the Great Recession.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have been able to do it without her. I mean, at all. Well, the book wouldn't have been written without her. It'd still be trapped in my computer, right? So you want to get it done, give it to a woman to finish it. But yeah, no, I mean, like in my previous marriage, which once again, I created that divorce too. That became evident after the fact. It wouldn't have worked with her. It took a Marlow to support me and move forward with me, right? And not try to spend the time fixing me, but owning her part of it. She owns some of it. And we talk about in the book, the resentment and all that, like that wasn't helping anything. But I said couples kind of face each other and all this, but we got shoulder to shoulder and got clear on some goals and attacked them together. And that's the ultimate mastermind, is a husband and wife on the same page.
How do couples get on the same page if they have currently totally opposite money beliefs? And the easy one is one's a frugal and the other one's a free spender, but there are other differences when it comes to money and finances that people's beliefs have. Do they need to be on the same page in terms of it, or is there need to be some kind of parameters around their financial relationship?
You can have different personalities, but for us, it was a common goal. It was a shared goal. Even though we had different programming and we grew up differently and different belief systems, we had a common goal that we both agreed on. And the numbers, Mark. I mean, 96% of Americans retire broke. I mean, like I said, 60% of divorces tie back to financial problems. At the end of the day, when I'm talking entrepreneur, couple, and individual or not, like, what are you aiming for? Our world is just rigged with distraction. And if you don't know what you're aiming for as a couple or as an individual or an entrepreneur, you're not going to hit it. I've been blessed to have some pretty amazing mentoring in my life. And when I get on the phone with these billionaires, they're like, hey, what's your number one goal? What are you aiming for and why are you aiming for? I mean, that's kind of where it starts. So when I ask a couple, like, what are you aiming for? And they're like, well, I mean, they don't know. Call that, the beach ball in the ocean of life. They're living by default. And so for us, it was like we sat down, it was a mess and we had a lot of debt. But one of the lessons we got from one of the couples she interviewed is what you focus on expands. And so you guys can focus on debt, but until you can create wealth, nothing's going to change. You need to learn how to save money and you got to deal with the debt. And obviously, you're not going to ignore it, but creating wealth versus fixing debt was an energizing conversation to me, Mark, because I'd been focused on debt. And the more I focused on it, the more it grew. So Marlow and I sat down and I said, what do you want? And we had no money. She said, what would make me feel better is if I had $100,000 saved in the bank, 100 grand. And that seemed like Mount Everest then. And what we've learned is the masses think goal setting is a logical process. The world-class people that she interviewed, goal setting is emotional. And you got to have what's called compelling emotional reasons why you want to do it. Because the budget didn't work, the goal setting didn't work for me. And I said, why do we want this? And we spent probably an hour, Mark, on why we wanted it. And it was, for me, the stress on her wasn't worth it. My kids were little, they lived in Atlanta. I hadn't seen them in a long time. I didn't have the money to go see them. That's emotional. My whole family tree, like, who's going to break this? Like, I want to break the generational poverty problem. That was emotional. Being an example, that was an emotional. I have a team of people that I lead, and I got to be an example. I can't expect them to do it. So when you tie reasons back to, it's always people. It's usually not the car or the home. It was, hey, we want to have 100 grand saved, and this is why. And I reminded myself every morning of why. I still do it today. If I want to go to the next level, I have to bust outside my comfort zone. Therefore, I need to know my reasons why I'm moving forward, or I'll just kind of settle into comfort like most people do. So that was huge. So we got on the same page. Now, we had different approaches or different mindsets, but we were clear on the goal and why we wanted to go after it. And then we have a weekly check-in still of like, what's the number one goal? Why do we want it? Why do we care? Are we close or are we further away? That's how you get on the same page.
That definitely makes sense. And once you have that, the what and the why, how do you then translate that into the how? These are the things to get there. Is that something that was easy for you to do? Or was it something that you had some of the mentors or some of the coaches helped you with?
My coach, he said, hey, you're a pretty good goal setter, but you're a horrible goal achiever. You're great at setting them, but you don't get it. And so what he got me to do is, and there's a great book out there, great resource. He taught me this before the book was even written, called 12-Week Year. Brian Moran, I think, is the guy's name. It's about taking the annual and getting your focus on the quarter. So we just ended, September 30, and I'm waiting for some systems to update with my company, but I'm going to check in with, the goals I set for that third quarter and, where are we? But one of the things on there that Marlow and I track is obviously our income, savings, and our net worth. We've been tracking that. So what he taught me, Mark, was to say, hey, you take that annual goal, you break it into the quarter, get focused on the quarter. then your strategies, tactics, processes is all tied into the week. And that took the pressure off, right? Because if you're at nothing and you're trying to go to a pretty big number, it's like standing at base camp looking up at Mount Everest. It's just, you're like, holy crap. But you need to be able to kind of small step, okay, base camp 1 is where I need to go next. That's where I need to focus. So I don't need to look up at the peak. I need to look at base camp 1. So what he got me to do, Mark, is got me to reduce it to the ridiculous, which was, okay, what do you got to do this week? Strategies, tactics, processes. If that's the annual goal, then you need to hit a weekly part of that. And then at the end of the week, you got to course correct. I've never been a guy that had a problem with taking action. It's just sometimes I just taking action for action's sake, not having a compelling vision for where I was moving. So the annual to the quarter to the week, still do it to this day. It's on my goals for the week over here. That was transformational. Took the pressure off. And then I was doing 52 small course corrections over a year versus what most people do, which is they try to make 30 changes on January 1. They get overwhelmed. They give up on their goals. And so you got to be able to get it in your face. This is what I need to do this week in order to hit what it is I'm going after.
I'm a proponent of that quarterly planning. It just breaks it into more manageable chunks than if it was, looking further out. One of the things you mentioned that I come across a lot is with couples and mindset and beliefs. I wanted to talk about the concept of segregating funds, because this is a question I get a lot from couples, and often their beliefs, it seems sometimes there's a trend, whether it's their first marriage, second marriage, in terms of how they think about things. But have you seen couples have more success either way, segregating or not segregating funds?
I mean, I got a client, he's super wealthy, but the more he makes, the less he keeps. I mean, it's a black hole. The money comes in, the money goes out. So he never has a conversation with his wife. He's like, well, I'll just make more. I don't need to talk about it, right? And so, she just blows money, and he keeps working harder, and and they're fine. They're going to be okay. But my Lord, I mean, he could be done working. So the black hole, the money coming in, the money going out. I don't know anyone that has not done adequate segregation that is crushing it, because money likes to be respected, right? People think, oh, it's the love of money is the root. Yeah, blah, 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 whatever. No, it's not that. It's not even the love of money. It's just respect of money, right? And I tell people, money's a relationship. If I didn't respect my spouse, probably not staying together. That's going to be a dysfunctional relationship or a non-existent relationship. So money's a relationship, and you need to respect it. That was me, man. I had to learn that, because I'm a guy, and one of my mind viruses was I'll just make more money. Well, oh my God, yeah, of course I want to increase my income, but I'll just make more means I'm not going to manage what I got well. And almost anyone that says that has no money, by the way. I'll just make more. Tested that out a couple dozen times. I'm like, oh, you're broke when you say that. You just make more. You must be broke. I'm like, how do you know? I'm like, because that's what broke people do. They got to manage what it is they have now. So the segregation for us was huge, and obviously the allocation of our accounts, and we still do it. But the number one thing that we did was we allocated fun, and that probably saved our marriage. So it was Marlow's idea. She calls it the fun fund. And, once we kind of proved that we could save money and that we were moving, she said, hey, I'm giving you, I think we start at $500 each a month. She's like, I'm going to allocate it. I have a separate debit card. Obviously, she gives me more now, but I could tell you, Mark, I can tell you right now to the penny how much money's in my fun account. And that fun account is to go see my kids, Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to go have fun with the guys, happy hour, golf, whatever, it's coming out of my fun account. It's not coming out of an account that's meant to move us forward financially. And she's got hers for hair, nails, all that. We talk about in our couples money book. We make it sound really simple. It's a game changer, man. And if you're single out there, you can do it on your own. You can say, okay, here's X amount. When it's gone, it's gone. And it's been cool as we've done it. And my kids have grown up. They're 20 and 17 now, but they're little kids. They come into Colorado. And there's no way I was going to go do a $200 happy hour with my buddies when my kids were coming into town the next week. I could use that $200 to go create a moment for them, right? And anytime Marlow was like, let's go eat out, I'm like, are we using your fun account or mine? She's like, neither. because you know how much money people blow eating out. So my kids will come in and say, hey, we have X amount allocated for the 10 days you guys are here. What do you want to do? Do you want to go eat at your favorite restaurant 10 times? Do you want to go, whitewater rafting? You want to go to Rockies game? What do you want to do? So the segregation of funds, super crucial. The segregation of funds for fun, because she knows if I'm going to go out and have fun, it's not getting rated from our financial independence account. It's coming out of my fun account. That probably did more financially to keep us together than anything.
How do you manage not reverting back? Because sometimes you see habits and yeah, people can change, but it often, whether it's a swift change back or a gradual change back, you see people reverting to their old ways.
Once again, I mean, I think if you have a compelling reason to move forward, and you can think of tons of examples. I mean, the grandma that's lifting the car off the baby, that's an extreme story, but when you're really connected to why you're doing it, you might revert back, but you're going to catch yourself. And it's not about trying to get perfect, and it's not about fixing yourself. One of my favorite quotes is, we're a miracle and a mess at the same time. Be kind to yourself. Not saying I didn't slip or revert back or whatever, but having a morning routine of going, you know what, this is the number one goal, because we need to be reminded. I still, to this day, as much as I think I know this stuff, I need constant reminders of why I'm going to the next level. And so me every morning going, okay, that's the goal. This is important, and this is why it's important. And every dollar is either moving us closer or further away. Plus, I got an accountability meeting with my wife in 3 days. I better show progress.
Yeah.
But, if you revert back or you fall back, then catch yourself, quick forgiveness. I call it revision, revise, recommit, and keep moving. Falling off's part of it too. It's not about
Right.
it being perfect, but I think if you don't make that a heavy thing, and you don't beat yourself up, because that never gets you anywhere. But I think the constant reminder of what is the mission and what are we going after here? I think that's the spot where people fall down pretty significantly. They don't really know what they're going after.
Yeah. And you mentioned, having a fun budget, and you also mentioned that same about financial independence and that goal as well. How do you actually implement that? Is it something you just have a spreadsheet and you can kind of account, okay, this is what's in the fund budget? Do you actually create separate bank accounts for these different goals, or is it just something that you're keeping track of and Marlow's keeping track of, somewhere else?
It probably could be more efficient. I mean, we have, lots of different accounts for lots of different purposes. I mean, she's the CFO of the house. She keeps her handle on everything. But what we do, December 30, December 31, we sit down and we talk about in the book called A to B. Where's our point A? Where's our point B? Where's our point A with savings, net worth? That was another thing that we learned, or she learned from interviewing people in the book, is wealthy people track their net worth. Everyone else doesn't. What you focus on expands. We got some income goals, and it's kind of cool. I just turned 50 in August, and I look back to, when I was journaling. I started journaling every birth on my birthday. At age 40, I said, hey, here's where I'm going to be the next year. And it seemed big at the time, but as I look back, it wasn't big. And so just that intention of, here's our point A with all those categories, here's where we want to be, point B, and then the monthly update of where are we in relation to point A to point B. So that's a simple spreadsheet for me. I look at it every week. Takes a few minutes. We update it once a month of like, here's where we are. This stuff's not hard, Mark. It's just easier not to.
Right.
So my whole word is, pay attention and be intentional about your life, and especially be intentional about where you're going financially. And most people aren't.
And I think you mentioned it earlier, being accountable to each other probably helps a lot as well.
Big time. Yeah. Hey, here's our goal. Here's what we're going after. We got a goal now. It's some things we want to do in real estate and what that means. And, so we're setting aside money to go do things there. But I got big compelling reasons why we want to do that. Now we're talking about that. So if you're a single person, ask yourself, what is the number one thing I'm aiming for? If you don't know it, don't keep listening, hit pause. Go through it. If you're a couple, what is our number one financial goal? If you don't know it, sit down and go through it and come up with the reasons why. Clarity is where I always start.
And you mentioned Marlow being the CFO of the family. Have you seen that approach work where maybe one person takes more of a lead than the other? Have you seen co-CFOs work? And then how do couples determine which person should take that role?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about co-CFOs. She wanted to do it. I think that's the first thing is who really wants to do it. I mean, I did it, but I didn't really want to do it. So, segregation of duties is huge. She's important with all sorts of facets of our business, our home, all that. But I'm the CEO of our business, and she's the CEO, CFO of our financial life. Or as my mentor says, I'm the guy that's focused on the goose that lays the golden eggs, and she's focused on what to do with the golden eggs.
Right.
And so that segregation has been super good, and she's in the weeds in the details because that's where you could really screw up, right? Is not knowing the details. But I'm super aware at the 10,000 foot level about where we are. That's what's worked for us. I'm not saying we're the perfect model. You got to figure out what works for you. Maybe co-CFOs work, but I think it all dials into what role do I want to play and what am I excited about playing.
And how long has it been since you had that conversation where you laid it all on the table to now?
Yeah, we're 15 years into what we have done. Yeah, our book is 10 years old. Unbelievable. Can't believe it. But yeah, I mean, amazing things have happened. So that's what works for us, and it's harmonious.
Over that 15 years, some of the biggest changes that you've had to whether it's beliefs or things that you thought were true about money that you found out aren't.
I think some stuff I used to buy into that doesn't serve is hard, right? I mean, just everything has to be hard. It's hard to make it, it's hard to keep it. It's, we get this programming from society that everything's hard and difficult. Not that you're not going to have challenges. I've had a lot of challenges. I got a pretty good work ethic. Not that you don't have to work for things. You can't just sit around and meditate and expect things to show up on your lap. But I call it this hero's journey. Like we feel like we have to go do certain things to earn success, and sometimes we create obstacles. I did. I created multiple obstacles. I mean, my divorce was one of them. All the financial decisions were these subconscious obstacles I had to overcome. So I think that, and then I think another thing is just, happiness is when I get there at some point, and that's a mess. And I live that. And, there's no happy ending to an unhappy journey. So those are some things. Hard, difficult, struggle. I see with my guys, like, I'm like, are you gonna get off the struggle bus? Like some of that stuff that we get programmed. And then, like I said, I call it getting your life off the layaway plan. Like, I'm going to be happy one day. Those are the things that I gave up that I think contributed to success because I had the energy now to go put it towards what we were going for.
Financial stress. You started off with the story about being broke, being in debt. It's not limited to that. I see people, multimillionaires, who go through money mindset issues, go through financial stress. It affects a lot of us in terms of it. So it's not just limited to people who may not have money. All right, so we're just about out of time. Chris, thank you for being on the show. You gave some great tips, great advice. I know money, it's very emotional. You might look at it and say, oh, I know what to do, but actually, having the right mindset about it is a whole nother ballgame. How best can someone reach out to you, find out more information about what you do?
We got our website, couplesmoney.com. So there's all sorts of resources out there. We have couples blueprint, financial blueprint. That's a 4-week transformation. Do it at your own pace. Different talks I've had around money mindset and how to get unstuck. And I also have a free complimentary 60-minute coaching session on all things money mindset and, those things like how do I have a financial transformation? That's a $500 value. Anybody that books that and we actually keep the appointment and go through it, I'll send them a complimentary couples money book, which I'm actually reading for the first time in a few years. I'm reading it. I'm like, pretty damn good book. I told my wife, we did pretty good, honey. And I'm actually enjoying it because I'm picking up my social media game and I'm on Instagram at CF_E2E. E2E stands for I also want to help people move from being an employee to an entrepreneur. And then I'm at Twitter at CL Felton. So I drop a daily quote in there, and I'm pulling from our Couples Money book and some other resources that have helped me. But that's where people can find me.
Perfect. And we'll link to all that in the show notes. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode.
Thank you for listening to the Agent of Wealth podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Bautis Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial planning and investment advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investments and financial planning.